How's it going? You guys ready to talk about some jobs in the esports industry? Yeah? That's what I like to hear. All right. Tell you a little bit about myself. I'll be moderating the panel today. My name is Jameson Durall. I'm a 2001 game dev graduate. I've spent the last 18 years designing video games. I worked at Volition on Saints Row, Oddworld on Stranger's Wrath. Had a lot of games that had a lot of fun working on. Also currently the creative director at Studio Invenio, where I'm working on the Halo Outpost Discovery project. And I'm helping to run operations for Armada. So, and I probably also should say that I was a Hall of Fame inductee in 2011. So, thank you. So, but we're gonna bring out some guys that are working in the esports industry, and we'll talk about what kind of jobs are out there and what you need to do to try and get them. All right, sound good? Cool. All right, first up we have Kevin Aguirre, LED operator and ad manager at Major League Gaming. How's it going, buddy?
It's going well.
Good.
It's going well.
Next up we have Matt Potthoff, general manager for E United. Good to see you. I love you guys. And last, certainly not least, Kevin Yang, visual designer for Riot Games. Welcome. All right, so why don't we start this by kind of giving some perspective of what your guys' time at Full Sail was like, and then kind of how that propelled your career towards esports. You want to start?
Yeah, so my name is Kevin Aguirre. I wanted to bring up like a weird unorthodox story, just because my time at Full Sail, I majored in film here, and somehow I managed to get into esports. And I feel like a lot of people have a similar story to that. But so I think it's called OrgSync, that thing that you guys have access to where they just post like openings and stuff like that. I signed in one time out of the blue. I didn't check it all the time. I just signed in and I saw that there was a job posting for Major League Gaming. And it was like you have to apply by Wednesday. And I applied 2 days after Wednesday because I was already too late. But I managed to get the job, and when I got there, I spoke to like the leaders of the place, and I tried to get my name known, just bring up conversation. My job was like way in the back office. I had like 10 minutes worth of work every hour and a half. So nobody knew who the hell I was. But I managed to talk to them, and then I just got hired back and forth. But it's weird because I wasn't even planning on getting into esports off of Full Sail. I was doing film stuff. So you kind of just have to go for it every time you see an opportunity, and you honestly never know what's going to take. I feel like applying 2 days late helped me because my email was probably on top of all the other people's. But yeah.
Hi, my name is Matthew Potthoff. Graduated in 2013 with a bachelor's in entertainment business. Coming to Full Sail, my sole goal was to graduate early so I could focus on professional gaming. I played professional Call of Duty for 3.5 years. And I really want to talk about my time at Full Sail because that's really when I just grew as a person. I was trying to find my identity and the community itself, and really what was going to happen to me outside of, getting my degree and, taking that leap of faith on what's really going to happen with my life. And back in month 15, can't remember the class, but there was a Modern Warfare 3 free-for-all tournament. I talk about the story a lot, and I get memed for it a lot too online, but I'll continue to talk about it because I won $25,000 on my birthday, and it was one of the best days of my life. I came back to Full Sail. They did an interview on me. It was my first time getting a controller sponsorship and just kind of put my name on the map in the community. And I was a random, complete amateur. I beat 4 other professional gamers in that tournament. And then after graduating, that's what really set the stone for me, where I could take that leap of faith and try to give this a true shot and take it to the next level and put 10 hours hours a day to travel the world and compete on main stages with thousands of people watching us play a video game that all started with us, playing with our basement. So it's kind of my story, and hopefully I get to go more in detail later on. But you'll find your path eventually if you just keep, giving 100% over time. And all it takes is that one contact, that one tournament win, that one opportunity to really set yourself apart from the rest.
Hi, my name's Kevin Yang, and I graduated Full Sail in 2015. Before coming to Full Sail, I was studying something completely different. I graduated from the Digital Arts and Design program, and before coming here, I was studying something completely different at a different school, and I felt really confused when I first got here. I wasn't happy with where I was in life, and I had always known that I wanted to be a creative person. So when I came here, I really focused on my craft and tried to, make a lot of designs, websites, logos, illustrations, stuff like that. I was in a great class. I was in a class filled with incredibly talented people who are all doing amazing things out in the world right now, and they really pushed me to just improve every day. And then after graduating, I was out in the industry doing a lot of web design, illustration, and product design for various tech companies like IBM and Microsoft. And a few years ago, I kind of wanted to see, now that I had gotten better at design, how could I apply that to something that I really love. So like before I was ever a designer, I was a gamer first. If anyone plays Melee, that was like my first love. I wanted to try to go pro in that, but it's really hard. But now I feel like I'm able to service a community that I've always loved. I've always loved watching all kinds of games. And over at Riot, I'm able to work on our watch experience. Like, I want to kind of push what competitive esports looks like and feels like from an audience perspective. So that's kind of been my journey up until this point.
So why don't we dig a little bit more into what your day-to-day right now is like? So you're in an esports role of some kind. Give us a little insight into kind of what you do and kind of how you got there from your start after Full Sail.
So day-to-day right now, essentially once a month, I work for Major League Gaming. I get flown out to all of the events. I personally do the in America events. I don't go international yet, but if you want me international, hit me up. Still trying to look for it. But when I get to the events, it's basically just setting everything up. We have these LED walls, and then we push all the content up there. So if you see all the United players looking cool up there in the back or wearing their Christmas sweaters, I'm the person who put that up there. I'm not sure if you guys get that.
Thank you for that.
And it's essentially just it's a really fun gig because you get to travel, you get to meet a bunch of cool people, you get to video games is work now. I always tell that to my mom. Video games took me places, You can get paid to do all these kinds of stuff if you just look in the right places. And then outside of Major League Gaming, I work with Activision Blizzard from home. I monitor the live streams and I do quality control, so it's really just an everyday thing, extra money, and I get to just watch video games and fix things and do creative problem solving, design the stuff that's up here. It's kind of a dream job, so it is out there.
So after graduating Full Sail, I played Call of Duty for 3 years. I lived in a team house in Atlanta under Curse Black, which is now Team Liquid. And it was kind of like my fraternity house experience because we obviously don't have that at Full Sail. We're just all grinding and, putting in hours and hours to make sure that we're on point and can graduate early. And I lived that life of flying across the world and competing for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it was a really fun 3 years. I ended up placing top 24 2 times in a row, which is basically unacceptable as a as a pro player, like if you start hitting that point from placing top 8 to top 12 to top 6, and you place top 24 and top 24 again, you basically know your time's up and it's time to hang up the sticks, is what we call it. So I hung up the sticks and I became a coach for Call of Duty and Gears of War. I probably have passed Kevin at multiple events over the past 2 years without even realizing it, which is really incredible. After coaching, I switched into a general manager position. And I essentially just help our day-to-day operations. I'm talking to our partners weekly, talking about different social media activations. I'm catching up with all of our players, doing research on new games to see what the next big title is. And that's really how I try to stay ahead of the curve, is putting in more time than other managers on what the next talent is, what that potential next new partner is, and really just trying to hone my craft every single day. And what Kevin touched up on earlier is just really being flexible. You know, there's some days where I can't be useful to a player, so I need to be useful to my creative team and just try to give input where I can. Some weeks I'm purely with my players and I'm traveling the world, and I just have to make sure that I'm blocking everything out to give them my full attention and make sure that they're fully prepared for the events that they're at. So it's really just being flexible, being creative, and trying to find ways to multitask where you can.
I guess my day-to-day is I work within a larger team at Riot, like we're maybe 20 people. We work on a product called watch.lolesports.com. It's basically like our version of Twitch or YouTube. We kind of want to make it the place to watch League of Legends moving forward, so we're always thinking about what our fan base wants and what they want out of an experience. So a lot of my day-to-day is working with product managers and engineers and other designers to kind of craft, you know, those experiences for our players. I mean, my general role, I think, is to work on like the web experience. So like lolesports.com, I will sometimes also do kind of like a hub takeover for our major events, like our world championships. Like I'll work with, you know, concept artists or external vendors to kind of, you know, polish out the visuals and stuff like that. Every once in a while I do get to work on some branding stuff for LCS and sometimes LEC, which is like the European League for League of Legends. But kind of echoing what Kevin and Matt have said, it's kind of about being adaptable. You know, I think as a designer, just as a creative person in general, like your greatest asset is being able to learn and unlearn things, break habits, and just be forward thinking in general. Like esports, I feel like, is a really rapidly evolving field, and it's probably going to look completely different in like 2 years, you know, like the whole landscape. So, you know, it doesn't matter what you do. If you want to work in esports, I think one of the best traits that you can have is not being too precious with what you know, but be excited about kind of the potential things you could learn moving forward.
Yeah, I wanted to touch up on that really fast because you brought up a really good point. Esports is still pretty new. Like it's blowing up. Full Sail just built this beautiful fortress right here, and you'll never know what this can turn into. Everything is like up for grabs right now. We even have famous people like Drake investing money into Call of Duty teams. You know, like people want esports. It's going to be the new best thing. Eventually, I'm willing to bet it's going to be like ESPN. It's good. I think it was on Overwatch League was on. Yeah, so like this is a growing industry, and if there's any time to get into it, it's kind of now. You know.
So I want to elaborate a little bit on what you were starting to say there, Kevin, about the traits that are important if someone wants to go into the esports field. There's a lot of jobs out there, but like what kind of traits or abilities do you think people should kind of focus in on to be like, I really want to be good at this, so that will help propel me toward that career? Anything jump out to you guys?
Yeah, I have no problem talking. In terms of hiring, I kind of broke this down in my past panel, but I'll repeat it because it's the best advice I think anyone can give, is just making sure that you're doing everything outside of your job description, asking good questions, taking good criticism, showing that you're you're just a team player in a way, that you're really trying to look out for everyone's best interest, because the small role that you play in your company is really helping everybody else out. And if someone has to take time away from their craft to help you out because, not because you don't know what you're doing, but because you're not willing to put in the time to adjust and to learn, and that's when problems get created and, people unfortunately get let go, so.
Yeah, there are multiple sides to this esports thing too, because it is a business and it is also creative and it's also competitive. So whatever way you want to get in, there's probably a route to get in. If you want to be in the creative side, and then you want to maybe start designing logos for other teams, or start web design things, or like people have like a bunch of them already exist where you could try applying, a bunch of streaming websites and things like that. You could start your own competitive team and then get off on social media, use Instagram, use hashtags to get more attention, bring back old school quick scoping and like all that stuff to get attention from FaZe and Optic way back in the day. And like there are multiple ways to get into this, because it is a live event. We need people to run the live events. So we need people to set up everything and control everything while it's doing that. And then you need the creators, I guess. I don't know what to call them, the professional players. You need the content and the business side. So it really is every angle.
I guess I can only really speak for, the design side of things, but a few of the things that I look for in a portfolio are definitely mastery of like the craft. I think it's really, really difficult to teach someone how to be a good designer. Like getting someone to be able to see things in a certain way and being able to get them to make good things is actually really tough. I think only you can do that for yourself. Typically when I mentor younger designers, I teach them how to work with clients better. I teach them how to get their ideas out there more clearly so that, they have to deal with less roadblocks. But the actual craft is something that I think is really hard to teach. So that's something I definitely look for in younger designers. And then I guess the one other thing would be something that's really valuable in design is being able to think for yourself. I think it's easy to kind of let rubrics or project requirements dictate your thinking, but I think what sets certain designers apart from others is the ability to kind of listen to their own voice and have like conviction in their own decisions. Even if it's like not necessarily what looks like the right thing to do initially, I think hearing those opinions is valuable. When you're working in a larger team, it's sometimes detrimental to kind of just agree with everything, right? Because then you don't hear a variety of opinions. I think the best work spawns from a bunch of really great people who have different outlooks on life, on work, and stuff like that, and be able to have the strength to, voice those opinions and feel comfortable enough to, say your thoughts on stuff is, invaluable. It's something that's going to add a lot of value to your work, but also to the work that, the people around you are making as well.
Yeah, I'll even quickly add to that, taking critique is something that's super important in all these industries as well, and being able to not take it personally, but then also how to act on that and kind of improve yourself, as you're doing your craft, which is good. So one of the things that we have a lot of degrees here, right? And it feels like that all of them touch on esports in some way, right? So since we don't have a dedicated esports degree, right? But we have show production, entertainment business. Why don't you guys talk a little about the degree you came from and kind of how that, kind of what jobs are out there for those degrees, so we can kind of give people an idea of like how you branch, from what you're focused on now into that world. Okay,
so I came from the film degree. I do also work in the film industry as a director, producer, and editor. What you have to think about is like they all need content to be made. If you're coming from the film degree, and you know how to use a camera, you know how to like shoot well, like really good-looking videos. United needs those cool-looking slow motion shots while they're giving their life stories, and like there's content all over the place. And if you're coming from like broadcast or something like that, there's a broadcast degree, right? Or That's what it is. The esports is a live event. It's broadcast. So they need content to be shot for that in a cinematic way. That's where film can come in. And then everything you learn from like sound mixing to technical directing to lighting, that's all in esports.
Yeah, fortunately, this school allows you to cater your projects towards what you're passionate about. I remember in entertainment business, there was rappers in my class, people trying to start their own restaurants, people trying to really just,
Honestly,
it was so unique and cool to see everyone having their, full widest spectrum. Just everyone was different on the list on what they wanted to do, and we were able to cater those projects. And that's really where my experience came into play, because esports is so new that we're all just kind of creating our own experience as time goes on. We're all still learning every single day and coming across new situations and trying to learn new angles to solve different problems. And with entertainment business, a lot of my management classes came into play, like even music management, a lot of that terminology with the contracts with musicians. Some of it does relay over to gamers with different terms that are in those contracts and the language that are in those contracts. So, just trying to make sure that I was taking and soaking all that information in really helped me out afterwards.
Yeah, coming from the DAD program, we definitely covered like a wide variety of things, like from print design to web design to motion graphics to 3D. I think those are all, at least on the visual side, highly sought after skills in the esports scene. So you can definitely carve out a role for yourself. What your passions are. There's definitely a job out there for you to do that thing. You just have to, be willing to look for it. I think, like the curriculum really allows you to, like Matt said, craft like your own projects. And I think that's something that I get really excited about, is just seeing like what other students are passionate about. I want to see someone who's like gone above and beyond and added like their own personal touch to, a school project or something. And I think Full Sail is like a really good place to do that. And yeah, I think there's just so many opportunities, and I think everyone in the esports scene is just trying to figure it out. I think I have to wear multiple hats, every day, because a new ask will come and it'll almost be like I'm in school again, where you get a school project and you're working on it and you're vibing with it and it's really cool. And then you hit this point where you have to do something, but you don't know how to do it. So you have to like figure it out, in the time that you have, which is not very much. It doesn't really change when you get out into the real world. It's very much like that. And yeah, I would say, let your passions guide you. I think Full Sail is a great place to find your passion, and then once you find it, you just hold on to it and you grow it. And if you do that, you're gonna be able to find a career in esports somewhere.
Yeah, and just to echo what Kevin was saying, we talk about flexibility, being adaptable, and Full Sail, where you guys are taking, 2 classes a month, and then you change your gears just like that, and you're constantly learning new things. I mean, when I went through web design and development, it, took a toll on me trying to like learn new languages really, really fast, and I found out that entertainment business was my place to be, and because of those stress and those failures, I was able to fly through the entertainment business degree program, because I had already, kind of learned, re-guide my passion on what I really wanted to do. So just keep in mind that what you are doing right now is really helping you out for the future. You guys are all grinding right now, and it will definitely pay off in the near future.
To follow up on what Kevin and Matt have been saying, you guys have everything at your fingertips. You guys have the laptop and you guys have the internet. That's literally all you need. My first job where they flew me out to Los Angeles, I felt like I was the coolest person ever. We were on the back of the plane. But my life was changing. I'd never been on a flight before in my life. But I flew out to LA to the Staples Center to go for COD XP. Allier was there. He was cool then. I liked them. When I went over there and they asked me in the email, he's like, hey, I did sound mixing for the first one. And the guy emailed me and he's like, hey, do you know how to sound mix? And my only experience with sound mixing was that broadcast class that was over there where like they let you go through all the different things if you're in the film program. But I was like, yeah, I know how to sound mix. And then I asked him what the device was and he said it was a Yamaha DM1000. And I spent the next 2 weeks before the flight Googling what that was and then just learning how to use it and learning how to do things. And when I got there, it was easy. You know, it's moving faders. And then after that was the one time I did that job for XP. And then after that, I started doing stuff in Photoshop, which is all the LED stuff and designing all that stuff. And same exact thing. He asked me if I knew how to use Photoshop. I was like, yeah. And then I was looking up tutorials on how to crop images while I was working. But I mean, I made it through. I was like looking up how to do it, and you all have that. Like you have the laptop. It comes with the Adobe suite. You can edit. You can go like everything is available. You can go home and download Unreal Engine right now and make a video game, the AAA. You know, you could go to Blender and make a Pixar level animation. Everything is at your fingertips, and you can learn anything from YouTube. Literally, there are hundreds of channels that teach you everything. So that's the only thing I have to say.
One of the things I always tell our students is like the thing I learned in my time here was what I learned here was how to learn. Like software is changing, hardware is changing all the time, right? So having that ability to quickly adapt and pick it up, and like you were telling them before you even got the opportunity to do it that you could pick that up, and that's great. That's like a great skill set to come out of here with. So Matt, you talked about how you wanted to be a programmer, right? And you had that thought before you even came here, right? So as you came here, what was kind of your plan? Like, if that's what you wanted to do as a gamer, why did you kind of come here to do a degree at that time?
So I came to Full Sail to get a degree as a backup plan. If pro gaming didn't work out, then I needed to make sure that I had some type of backup plan in case things did not work out. And, you know, things don't last forever. Eventually, you know, careers are usually stable, but professional gaming is really cutthroat. The amount of talent out there is incredible for all games and esports. And I'm 27 now. I'm very delusional. I still feel like I could go back to an event and do really well, but that's probably not the case anymore. You have players like we just put a Simp on our roster. He's 18 years old, still a senior in high school. And he's a freak at Call of Duty, and he's making really good money doing it. And at my age, you know, there are a few players at my age that are still doing this, but it's just very hard to do. You have to put in so many hours a day, and, you know, just like anything, if you want to be good at it, you have to put in hours and hours and hours perfecting your craft. And as you grow up, you slowly, even if it's only 6 hours a day, it's still not enough to play at the level that these guys are playing at. So having my degree is really helping me out with the experience and knowledge that I learned as a professional gamer, and I'm just kind of tweaking everything that I learned into the business side. And I'm also really fortunate that I was able to, you know, compete for 3 years. I had 3 goals really outside of Full Sail: was playing on main stage, traveling across the Atlantic Ocean, just playing in an international tournament for a video game. And then the third one was just being signed on a professional team. After I accomplished those 3 goals, my 4th one was always to win a team major, and unfortunately that never happened. I placed 3rd, I placed 4th, I placed top 12 more times than I can count, and I'm really pissed at that. But I always dreamed of holding up a trophy one day playing, and I'm essentially living that dream now as a manager. My players make fun of me for it because it was Infinite Warfare Atlanta. I made the decision to remove 3 players off of our team and pick up Gunless, Arcides, and Pristini. Arcides and Pristini are twins, and they're still on our roster to this date. And they were complete amateurs. Their story is incredible. They never competed on like a true main stage. stage. They never placed top 8. We put this team together and they won IW Atlanta. They beat Optic Gaming in the grand finals. And as soon as I saw that trophy, I just kind of took it and I was holding it in the team picture. And I didn't realize I did that, but I said the same thing I'm saying now, is that I'm kind of reliving my dream through my players, which is why I'm so passionate about helping them out as much as I can.
You want to add something?
I was just going to ask, how old is Ninja?
I think Ninja is probably 27.
Yeah, I'm saying he still has fast reflex.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you got to put the hours in it. Oh, good.
He's saying it's not too late for you.
Yeah, man.
No, yeah. There's just kind of talking off topic, there's a lot of direction for streamers now. You see a lot of professional gamers just instantly becoming a streamer, and they're still competing at a high level, but they aren't pressured to, compete against the best talent out there. And that's why you see a lot of streamers potentially not go to some of these tournaments. They make way more money at home than they would flying to a tournament, and they don't risk their reputation or getting roasted online if they lose to an 18-year-old or lose to a 13-year-old playing Fortnite. And it's true, and it's really smart that they're protecting their reputation, because it is a job at the end of the day, and you want to make sure that you're showing the impression that you still have it and you're playing at a really high level.
Follow the hype games. If you want to make it in streaming somehow, like Fortnite blew up, then Ninja blew up. Also follow the new streaming platforms. I think Mixer's on the rise. You have a streaming platform. What is it, Watchdog?
Oh no, it's just to watch competitive League of Legends.
But okay, well, I mean, if you need to find new places to stream, just hop on the hype trains that are existing, and then it's just more of a chance for people to see you. I remember when No Man's Sky came out, everybody was hyping up about that, and for a while people grew, but then the game came out. And then Fortnite came out, and it just took everything, and it started doing, the people who were streaming that, there are people whose job it is now. I think Dakotas, Ninja, Tfue, all these people, they just, they hopped on a new game, they were good at it, and they were entertaining, just like that.
Yeah, I actually just thought of something off the top of my head. Some good advice I think that could affect all of you, no matter what profession you get in with esports, is really understanding the language and the terminology of the different esport titles out there. That can benefit every single one of you, whether you're a graphic designer or you're running tournaments or managing, coaching, or just trying to play and understand the business side. There's League of Legends, you have Overwatch, Call of Duty, Smite, Counter-Strike. There are a ton of games. I'm still learning to this date on just different, rushes or different terminologies on call-outs for maps, or how different players interact with each other. Each community is different, and the more time you invest while you're in school and have that time to invest, you're going to be way better off after you graduate. If you can come to a general manager or a coach or a player or any type of company, and they understand that you are connecting with them, they understand that you took the time to research their game and really have intellectual conversations about League of Legends, then that could be the difference maker between getting a job or not. I think talking about League, it's one of the most complicated games out there, and I helped, basically was like a house manager when we did have League of Legends 3 years ago, and I tried to take notes in the film room, just trying to learn different languages and how they really bond with each other, and learning warding, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to take me a year to learn. And so just putting in the time to make sure that you're on top of, even it doesn't have to be like the most complicated situations, but as long as you understand the basics of each game, it can really go a long way.
Yeah, I definitely want to piggyback on what both Kevin and Matt have been saying. I think everyone here loves esports, and I think you should let that guide you in whatever career that you choose. At least from a design perspective, designing for esports, it's really good if you actively watch esports to learn the language or to figure out the general space. That's been kind of one of the trickiest things about hiring for our team at Riot, is we have a lot of great designers that come through, but they also need to watch a lot of esports, because it's not like designing a watch experience is different than like making a menu for a restaurant. Like I think the visuals could be there, but we want to hire people that really understand what it means to really be a fan of esports. We want people that get excited about esports, that have opinions about what they want to see in esports. I think that's the only way that we can move forward from a design perspective. So just by being here and being into esports, no matter what field you want to go into, you already have like such an advantage over people who are just in the field but not necessarily into esports. Like I can just tell you from personal experience, interviewing people, that you definitely have a huge advantage.
I wanted to make like 2 quick points. There is power in reaching out, and there is power in taking chances. You guys literally have nothing to lose. I have a friend who was in the last Gears of War Boston show. It was a month ago. I have a friend who did his first gig there. He's a new friend because I just met him there. But apparently the way that he got the gig was because he saw that there was a show that was like an hour and a half away, and he reached out through email. He like researched who was in charge of MLG. I forget who he ended up emailing, but he reached out and he was like, hey, I have been watching esports my entire life. I love it to death. Everything is good. I see that you guys are doing a show in Boston. I can drive up there, get an Airbnb, and like work whatever jobs he offered, like everything. He's like, I would love to work there. It's been like my dream job, everything. He went the extra mile and he reached out and he got the job. And then while he was there, he became friends with the person who hired him. And I believe he might be starting to work with Astro now. I do not know that. But like he got his foot in the door. He was at an event for the whole 3 days. He got paid to do it, and like he took the first steps. And it's important. You just have to try to reach out, have to try to speak to the people who are in this world, and you'll never know what you get.
Yeah, it's actually a point we should elaborate a little bit on. How important is networking in the esports industry? I know in every entertainment industry that I've been closely affiliated with, it's key, right? Like who you know is usually the way you get work, right? Is that the same with esports? Does it kind of follow along that that way of thinking?
Yeah, I think I can say now that, and it sucks giving this advice to network, and I did not do it as much as I should have. When I was in college, I should have networked more. I was just so focused on becoming a professional gamer that I blocked everything out. And fortunately, that worked out for me, and I made that sacrifice to not network, to put all my eggs in one basket, and it worked out for me. But for others, that might not be the case. And just taking the time to network is definitely the best thing that you can do. I said it before, but all it takes is one person to read your email, get a good impression, and move forward with sending you an email back to start a conversation about potentially working with that company.
Yeah, I think networking is, super important. I know a lot of people focus on networking so that you get additional opportunities, and that's definitely the case. But as a student, and just as, someone early on in their career, I've always used networking as a way to actually improve at my craft. I love asking questions about, technical stuff, about like visual aesthetic, just to, if I see something cool on the internet, I try to share it with people that I trust, or I'll share it with somebody that I've met at an event just to see what their opinion is, because I think when it comes to visual design, everyone's got opinion and it's valid, and it doesn't matter if you agree or disagree with that person. It's more that that perspective exists, and I feel like that's the kind of networking that I enjoy. Like when I'm at conferences or meetups, I love talking to people that are curious about, my opinion on certain things, versus just like, hey, where do you work? Like, are you guys hiring? Like, obviously everyone's hiring and everyone's like, looking for people. But I think if you start out with that, it could be difficult to really build a relationship with that person. I think it's always cool to, talk about what you have in common, like what you like about design or film or, whatever you're studying. I think that'll be a much more natural transition to, opportunities. And it's also just a great way to get to know people. I think, everyone likes to work with someone that they feel like they have a rapport with or comfortable with. So I guess that's always been my approach to networking.
Yeah, I guess to try to make a different point, I feel like a lot of people here might feel the same way that Matt does, and I have to admit as well. My time at Full Sail, it wasn't as, I wasn't doing the most that I could. I was quiet, I was shy, I was doing I wasn't networking like I should. I know a lot of people that did network a lot. A good friend of mine, her name is Jocelyn, straight off of graduation, she works at HBO now. It's crazy. I have other friends who are ADing for actual films in Atlanta, features and stuff like that. And that's because they're good at networking, they're good at talking, they're amazing people. But my main point that I want to make is that if you did spend your time here, a lot of you might be in your last few months, it isn't too late. I moved out to LA a year ago, and I essentially started networking there. You can start whenever. When I moved there, I figured no one knew who I was. I could be whoever I want to be. So I started being who I wanted to be, and now I'm directing and producing and working in esports, and I have fingers dipped in music and stuff like that. It's because I met people, they saw something in me, and I started actually working hard and trying to follow my dreams. Everybody here has a dream, whether it's esports, film, acting, anything. It really isn't too late to start networking, but it is one of the best important things to do. So the sooner you can start, the better. But don't get discouraged if you spent Full Sail not networking.
Yeah, I guess just two things. When I took networking serious, I should have taken my grandpa's advice way earlier by making business cards. It's pretty self-explanatory, but it goes a long way. You could be at a bar, they might not be paying attention, but they're a really important person, and they wake up the next day and see a business card and instantly remember the conversation that they had with you. That's one. And two, setting goals for yourself. Making sure that if there are a lot of networking events at once, set a goal. I'm going to go to this one. I'm going to spend my time here. I'm trying to talk to these people. And even if it doesn't work out, you're still getting experience kind of breaking those social barriers on what you're trying to get across. I think we all kind of get out of our comfort zone at times, even myself. Just being up here, it was something I had to think about for, leading up to this. And I think taking those steps to make sure that you're just trying to break out of your comfort zone, you're trying to take that step to learn more on just having, dialogue with somebody else that could impact your job can go a really long way.
Yeah, definitely gonna echo the business card thing. As a designer, if you're capable, I think stickers and pins are really good. They're possibly even, I feel like they've been more successful for me than business cards, because if you make a really dope sticker or pin, they like it, they put it on their laptop, then anyone who comes into contact with that with that person sees your work. And I've definitely gotten work from art directors because they were like, hey, I saw a really cool graphic on a laptop and your email is on it. It's just really organic. So if you're able to do that, you have that skill set. It's a super cool trick.
Yeah, I haven't done that myself, but I do know a bunch of people that you just reminded me, because a bunch of names just popped into my head of all the people who have weird, different, cool contact information. They have different shapes of business cards, just something to make yours stand out or something like that. I don't really know where you could do that, but you could probably Google it and find out just where to get. You said pins and stuff like that?
Yeah,
that's
enamel
a good
pins.
idea. Just wear a little pin right here. You just give it out to everyone else, and it just
Your
ways to
phone
stand
number
out.
right on it, so you get phone calls from everybody.
Exactly. I put my phone number on my Call of Duty emblem. And then I got banned for for putting a phone number on an emblem. Just the emblem editor. I could still play the game, but.
So do you guys have any advice for people that want to like meet people in esports? Like, where should they go? How should they go about that? Like, where's a good place to network or, get that kind of information?
I guess I can just touch up on some of the hires that we've made through eUnited. Mainly, our creative director has a really big part on trying to acquire talent for our graphic designers, videographers, post-production editors. We're usually using hit markers. I think that's an esports job, search center where companies can post where they're looking, and then you guys, others can apply. So that's a great way to start. But with our creative director, John, he was putting in a lot of work on Twitter. Before we even hired him, he was sending our organization's designs left and right and was basically just displaying his talent on Twitter and social media. And that caught my eye, and that led to him getting, acquired to become a graphic designer, and then he worked his way up to a creative director. So sometimes just taking the power of social media and the free tools that we have in front of us, just taking that leap of faith and, being really passionate about that one idea or that one organization that you really love, and you put something dope together, you send it to them, just tweet them, and who knows what that company's going through. They could be struggling with their current graphic designers. They could be expanding their budget and wanting to hire future graphic designers. You just never know what those internal conversations are like. So just once again, taking that leap of faith, putting in the extra effort can always go a long way.
I know there are also job postings on actual websites, or you could do that route that little anecdote I told a little earlier, where you saw that there was a show near you, and then you emailed the person who was in charge of that show. But I do know, like, Blizzard always has job postings, Major League Gaming has job postings, and apply. Like, there's nothing wrong with applying. If they want 10 years of experience, you honestly never know if they'll take you, especially if it's an entry-level position. But you can do a little bit of research, find out Major League Gaming isn't the only company that does esports. If you guys want a job in esports, I think ESL is another one. I don't really know all the other ones, but you could look them up and just go to their personal website and contact someone, contact their career network, and just see what's up. Tell them you're passionate, tell them you want to intern, tell them you want an opportunity.
I'm just going to echo social media. I think I'm a pretty shy person. Like, when I go to conferences and meetups, it's hard for me to just go up to someone I don't know and talk to them. So social media has been a really great way to get to know, other people in the field. We typically, if I like someone's work, I'll follow them, and then I'll comment on their stuff, and we kind of build a relationship just through social media. And then if I do see them at a meetup or a conference, it's easier for me to, go up to them, talk to them, really get to know them. That's kind of been the only way that I've really been able to network. I'm not actually all that great at it, because it's weird. I don't know if people out there are introverted like me. Being up here is very tough for me. It can be hard to network at times. So, I would say just find creative ways to, figure out how to, get yourself out there, and I think social media has really, really enabled just about everyone to kind of have that relationship with, the people that they look up to or their peers, anybody really.
Just to touch up on this, I guess just a trend that I've been noticing lately is not even for organizations itself, but there are hundreds of professional players that are playing for these organizations that are now making great money. So you can take that same concept and apply it to a player, tweet that player, designs or scoreboards, images. I should not have said scoreboards because that's the organization's job. More like YouTube thumbnails. Just show that player what you can do, and they'll probably take a chance on you. Not even for the graphic design aspect, but even for managing. There's a lot of inexperience right now with managers, so they might take a shot on you. They really will. I think it's a great way to try to diversify yourself and just take another leap of faith.
Yeah, that gets your foot in the door, and then you never know where that leads. Like if say you want to edit Scump's videos, once you do that, he sends you all the footage. Maybe he hires you as a photographer to start shooting his footage, and then you're around all the esports people, and then, hey, I'm also really good at Call of Duty. Check this out. I made this quickscope video, and then you hand it off to him, and you just never know. You always get your foot in the door, and you keep taking the next step. You'll never know where you end up.
Yeah, outside of graphic designers, just gave me another pointer. A lot of professional gamers are creating documentaries on their own now. So we invest into a videographer to go to every single event that we can. They build a documentary on that weekend from Thursday to Sunday. We then have a post-production editor who basically takes all the raw footage and clips it together, does all the editing, and tries to compile a story from those 4 days over a tournament. And players are now doing the same thing. They're investing into their own vlogger, their own videographer, whatever you want to call it. They're doing interviews for that videographer. They're trusting that videographer to tell the story of their ups and downs at that tournament, and then they put it up on YouTube, and it leads to maybe individual sponsorships that aren't conflicting with the organization that they're signed with. It can lead to more monetization through advertisements on YouTube. There's a lot of different things that are happening. So it benefits both parties, and just basically, echoing that there's more opportunities left and right that are happening. Even as our industry continues to grow, I truly believe that more spots will be filled, more jobs will be listed. A lot of organizations are fairly small size in staff, and as more investment comes, we're going to need more quality people to fill in those roles.
Yeah, it sounds like it's growing so fast that places probably don't even know what their needs are yet, right? You might even be able to help them identify it by showing what you're capable of, right? So we've touched on this a little bit, but one of the things that I think happens a lot with students that come through here is they learn what the roles are, right? So you come in and film and you think, I want to be a director, but then you find out what all the individual people are on set, and like what those roles are. We don't know that stuff, until we kind of get exposed to it. So are there any roles that you guys have seen in your organizations or around you that are like, oh, people may not think about this being an esports role or something they could get involved in?
I monitor live streams as one of my jobs. Like there aren't as many games right now. It should pick up again, but like one of my jobs is to quality control a live stream. I don't think anybody would ever thought of that. At MLG in general, a lot of the roles are, stage hands. They're like the lighting guys and stuff like that. There's really anything you can think of. There's the guys who clean up afterwards. The guys who pick up trash. There's the guys, people coach players. I wouldn't have thought of that. I thought players just, do their thing, and then every team has players. Every game has players, and every player has a brand. And that brand needs to be supported through a bunch of different avenues, like the videographers, the social media. Social media management is another thing. You can get paid to tweet for people.
Yeah, I think over time with social media too, we'll start to see, just solely someone operating the Twitter, someone solely operating Facebook and Instagram. Right now we have maybe 1 to 2 people doing everything. And I think that will slowly change over time just because of the impact of social media. I guess just giving a quick story, when I was a professional player, X Games was hosting our playoffs. And the chance to win a medal playing video games is unheard of, and it was a dream for all of us that were competing in the league. I did not make playoffs, so I basically took, I don't know if it was pride or just getting rid of it or whatever, but I took an internship with Razer, and they sent me out to X Games so I could still be a part of it. I wasn't able to earn a medal. I was working the entire weekend, but I still got to hang out with my friends, and I worked an entire weekend and gained experience just telling information about their Nabu X. I can't even remember what it is, but essentially just stating that sometimes you just have to do what you need to do to keep working your way up, regardless of what it is, regardless if it maybe it's not something that you like to do. It's still experience at the end of the day. It's still giving you, relationships that you might not get, and that was something to put on my resume. It was something that led to another position. It helped me with a real life job that I had to take for 3 months before I could figure out what I was doing in the gaming space, and all those little things add up and count.
I'm definitely going to use one of my coworkers as an example here. He graduated from Full Sail. He was in film, and now he's a PM on our team, and that stands for product manager. So he is essentially managing our relationships with a lot of external vendors. If we're making like T-shirts or like any kind of swag, or if we need posters, or for our events, we do a lot of large art. He kind of manages a lot of those relationships. He also, sets up meetings. He kind of makes sure everyone is respecting everyone else's time and is making sure that, we've got this huge board of things that we have to do every week. He kind of helps us with the prioritization, like what comes first, second, third, et cetera, et cetera. I thought, I think that's like a career path that's not very obvious straight out of film, but maybe it's because I'm not in film. But I know there's plenty of roles just like that. Every team needs a PM, because otherwise we would be useless. So.
I have 3 other friends that work at Major League Gaming with me, and they all do random jobs. So like one of them is responsible for setting up all like the scaffolding. His name is Trenton. He's like responsible for setting up like the cables and just making sure everything works. Another friend of mine, his name is Trace. He does sound mixing, so he like pushes fader whenever the gameplay comes up, or the talker or the casters, we don't need to hear them or something like that, or they puts up music. That's another job. A friend of mine, Parker, he does stage managing, so he helps the players with sign-ins. Like he signs in for the players. That's a job. He gives away, like he sometimes is responsible for all the giveaways. So like at Major League Gaming events, they give away like 70 headsets or something like that. And he's the guy who gets them from the back and throws them at people. Another, like he's been doing a job called observing recently, which is the guy who sits in the truck and he sits with the controller and he chooses who you're watching when you're on a stream. So I don't know if you know what you're talking about. So like if there's like 4 players in a team, he's like, all right, we're gonna watch this guy. This guy dies. He switches to another guy. That's a whole job for a whole weekend. So it's just kind of like a lot of different ways to get in.
All right, so before we get to viewer questions.
Hey, users.
Yeah. I want to give you guys one chance to give your either biggest piece of advice or something you want to make sure people understand now before they start thinking about moving into esports.
Trust yourself. And that's purposely vague, because literally everything starts inside of you. That you have to start pushing it out. Like I said, when I went to Full Sail, and I cannot stress this enough, I was known for editing, which a big part of me hates editing. I love editing, but a big part of me hates editing because you have to sit in a room forever and watch people's faces, watch all their bad acting. So, like, I didn't want to edit for the rest of my life. I wanted to do a bunch of different things. And my time at Full Sail was spent only editing. So that was my only avenue to get anywhere. I would have hated my life. So when I moved out to LA, I trusted myself. I started pushing myself as everything that I knew I could be. And everything is just falling into place now. You just have to go, you have to fight yourself. You're your own worst enemy, win that battle. And then that's my biggest piece of advice.
I guess starting, while I was at Full Sail and striving to become a professional gamer, I went to bed every single night knowing that I could do that. I believed in myself. I knew that it was going to be really freaking hard, but I pulled it off. And if you have that same gut feeling about whatever you're trying to do, if you go to bed every single night and you know that it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Secondly, make sure that you're on your A game at all times when you're talking to people. You might not realize, but there are other people eavesdropping in on your conversations or might just be gliding by, and that's their first impression of you. Even though that you're not directly talking to them, that indirect conversation or that indirect, them just glaring by is a first impression for them, and it sets the tone for, that networking event, that event that you're at for the weekend, that one time you're at a bar. So just always keep that in mind.
Yeah, I guess my bit of advice, and I think, I wish this was said more, but I think it's important to take care of yourself. When I definitely didn't do that when I was a student, and I definitely didn't do that earlier on in my career. But I think having a wider perspective of things, I think my stance on it has changed quite a bit. Regardless of what you do, whether it's design or film or music, the best work that you're going to produce isn't going to be a year from now or 2 years or 5 years. It's going to be in 20 years from now, when you have the ability to really influence what you put out in the world. And the only way you're going to be able to do that work is if you make it there. So it's about working smarter and not necessarily harder. And that's a really, I don't want people to misconstrue what I'm saying. Obviously you have to work really hard, but, and it's really, really hard to work really hard, but it's also really hard to take care of yourself, to have the discipline to really consistently put forth an effort to where you're getting the most out of each day, but you're also saving enough time for yourself to make sure you're doing what you need to do to be a functional human being. It might not feel like the right thing to do in the short term, but I don't know, for me personally, I worked really, really hard every single day, and then I just burnt out for a whole year. And then, I started asking myself a lot of tough questions about how I work. And I kind of did some research, and I kind of took inspiration from people who had really sustained success in whatever they did over, decades, and it's not necessarily esports related, but it's this, if anyone watches MMA, there's a really, he's probably the greatest MMA fighter of all time, George St. Pierre. He did this interview, and he did this interesting interview, and I thought it was fascinating. He basically said he never really trains to the maximum. If you take someone who trains 10 hours a day, but can only train every other day because he's so burnt out the next day, versus someone who trains 6 hours, but every single day, over the course of the year, the person who's trained 6 hours every single day will have had 1 extra month's worth of training than the person who trains 10 hours every single day. And that's why he's able to beat them. Not because he trains harder, but he puts in the consistent effort to improve every single day.
Pay attention to your mental health too. Focus on yourself. Take a me day, or at least a me couple hours. Because I know everybody wants to hustle, but it is important to take care of yourself. I was trying to get off of that point, to make sure you're paying attention to yourself.
Awesome. Great stuff, guys. I'm sure some of you have questions. We have a couple of mics on each side of the room if you guys want to line up there, and then we can start getting you guys to ask some questions. You want to start over here?
My name is Jesse Valiente. I'm in the entertainment business program. I've had this question since the beginning of the presentation. When you guys were talking about the hype games and stuff like that, what games do you see in the trend right now that are hype? And then do you see Apex becoming something in MLG or esports in general?
The game that I see everyone play at the office is auto chess. Yeah.
Regarding Apex, I think it's a great game. I've seen some criticism that there hasn't been an announcement yet on the competitive side, and that's maybe delaying the possible future for it. But as soon as they come out with a competitive pro point system and they start rolling events, I think it's gonna take off really fast. are we prepared for it? We are always prepared for any game. We are constantly searching. I did, occasionally talk to Apex teams to try to see, what their interest is. And even if we don't sign a team, it's really good for me to just get information and get to know those players, because later down the road, they might be playing a different game or they might be unsigned. So, we are always looking at Battle Royale games, and, hopefully it comes true.
I should mention that I got my first dub in Apex a couple days ago.
Nice. Congrats. There you go.
So, if you're looking, just saying.
Nice. Over here?
So my name is Reese. I'm in the sportscasting degree program, and I want to be in esports, whether it's a caster, studio host, or interviewer. And I was just wondering if you guys have any tips for me to get my foot in the door.
For casters, you can definitely have a couple videos that you could shoot now, just to mock up things, even if it's just a practice. I feel like an important thing for casters is a bit of a social media following that will help. Instagram might be the easiest place if you know the algorithm research and all of that. Is there's a science to growing a fan base. It's not just you have to be cool and they'll find you, but there are methods that you could look up that you could try to find out. But a social media following will help. And then there's events here. You could probably try casting for some of the student events and work your way up just to get some experience.
Yeah, so I remember chatting outside too, and just kind of echoing the first answer, and then I have a good second one that I just thought of. One, with franchising coming around the corner, I really feel like a lot of new opportunities are going to be there. I hope radio hosts become a thing. I know I don't plan on seeing radio dying, but I still think people enjoy listening to stuff while they're driving around, and I'm hoping that starts with esports soon. Just a personal thought. And then second, a lot of my friends that are casters, their first year, they were just kind of watching competitive scrims or watching their favorite players stream, and they were practicing in their room by themselves, recording it, and then they would go back in and listen to it, and that's really how they kind of perfected their craft. And I think them giving that advice to me for how they became where they are, I think would be great advice for you.
Awesome. Go over here.
My name is Marcus, and I have a question for Matt about the coaching side of things. Do you guys hook up your team with the tournaments and whatnot? And also, how do you recruit and scout teammates for your team?
Can you repeat the first question, please?
Do you hook up your team with tournaments? Are you the one who manages all that stuff?
Yeah, so I handle their flights. I handle all the logistics, hotels and all that good stuff. Fortunately, esports is moving in a direction where the tournament organizers are handling most of that stuff, which is great. It's made my job a lot easier, and I'm super thankful for that. Shout out to MLG for helping that out, because it really does help so much. In terms of recruiting, we were one of the first organizations to start an academy team for Call of Duty. We've also taken strides on our other games to make sure that we just have, backup players. And I think it's really important that you have that, because it helps it kind of puts pressure on the starters to make sure that they're on top of their stuff, that there's always someone there that might take their spot if they're falling behind. And when I recruit, I just make sure that, one, kids are professional, two, they have good head on their shoulders, three, they're talented at the game. They just have to be naturally good at the game, just the mechanics side. And then fourth, are they teachable? If they're teachable and you have veteran players on your team and a good management system, you should be able to guide that player to where they need to be.
All right. And in terms of tactics that they use, how much influence do you have on the way they play?
That has changed over time. So when I coached, I wasn't, just giving advice on when to use certain specialists in Call of Duty, for example, and trying to just kind of help out with the team dynamic and making sure they're all on the same page. I would be the one to make sure that in between maps or in between series that they're communicating with each other, because after a loss, your players like to split up and go off on their own and listen to music and not talk to each other. And it's really important that they're always in the same room talking about what they need to. I kind of directly say like they need to work the problems inside instead of going outside of it. It's really important that that happens. So hopefully that helps.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Awesome. Over here.
Hi, my name is Carlos Cudwith III in the Media Communications program, and I have a question to build on what Kevin Aguirre said. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your last name.
That's fine.
Okay. What you said about trusting yourself. So, at any of you guys at any point in your career, like, have doubted yourself, like, what would you say that like helped you through that? Like, what sort of support did you look for? That sort of stuff.
So I doubted myself this morning. I don't. That's a hard question to explain because, like I said, the trust yourself is purposely vague. It's something that you really just have to find in yourself, and it took me forever to find it. I'm 25 years old, but I don't feel like I deserve this. But I'm on a panel now. You know what I mean? Just shout out, hi mom. I get to do that now. But I still struggle with a lot of thoughts like that. But you don't have to listen to it completely. At least not publicly, not show it. If you walk around confidently, you know people will gravitate towards that. And you just. I hope that answers your question, like in the slightest bit, but like trusting yourself, it has to do with the feeling inside of you. Because like I said, when I did start here, I didn't do that. But then I started to do that, and now I feel like I've made a lot of steps in the right direction. So I hope you can find it in yourself to do that, or anybody who doesn't, because it's never too late.
Yeah, sometimes your mind just plays tricks on you, and it gives you the worst case scenario in your head before something can happen, and it's just about kind of doing it and realizing that, wow, I'm through a minute out of the next 10 minutes and everything's going to be okay, and you just keep going with the flow and doing what you need to do and realize that we're human beings, and things are going to happen, but at the same time things will work out as long as you're just staying positive and staying confident.
Yeah, you know what you're capable of more than anybody else. By default, when you say you know how to do something, by default, other people are going to be like, come on. But like it's up to you to prove that. If you have a dream and you have goals, there are tools out there that can help you grow and learn. Take criticism constructively, but it is up to you to prove that you know what you're doing in this world and follow your passions. That's how I have to answer that question.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a healthy level of doubt to have.
Self-hate.
If you never doubt yourself, then I think you're probably just not taking enough risk. You're not making a good enough attempt to grow. I think for me, just knowing that the people that I look up to had the same doubts, really helped me feel okay. I think it's not about not having doubts. It's just more about having the confidence to know that you'll be able to work through it. And that just comes with experience. The more doubts you have and the more times you overcome those doubts, the better you'll feel about having them.
Real fast shout out. My favorite all-time human being is Childish Gambino. And he's like killing it right now, but a lot of my personal time I spend looking up interviews and questions like this get asked to him all the time. And even someone in his level says he stays away from social media because he's sensitive and he can't, take a lot of the things that people say, even though a lot of it's positive right now. But you aren't alone. No one is alone when they struggle with self-doubt or things like that. You just have to find it in you to overcome it.
Thank you.
Over here.
Hey, Mr. Introvert. First off, I just started playing League of Legends over a year ago, and I'm obsessed. I had started way late to the game. Somebody shared that song "Legends Never Die" with me, and that got me into it. But one thing that I want to talk about is networking specifically. I have a hard time, as you can tell, speaking my mind in public, but what I like to do is ask for notes, like whether it's my own work or sharing it with other people. or sharing other people's work and getting ideas from other people. And what I find is that it's either like you can't really share your perspective and your opinion fully on it, or you can't really take their advice. I have a hard time taking other people's criticism if they don't want to hear my perspective on it. So I was wondering, how would you say about sharing that perspective in a more, common regard?
Yeah, I guess there's a few things there. I mean, first, you're totally fine. You're rock solid, dude. So don't feel, bad about it. I would say in terms of taking criticism, the way I've always handled it is you can take it, like you don't have to act on the criticism. It's just for you to hear. It's not about the information. It's about what you do with it. Like the one thing I never wanted to do is I never wanted to dissuade people from giving me criticism, right? I think if someone, shares something with me and I disagree, like I'm willing to hear them out, and then I can't process things immediately. Like if I'm working on something and then someone comes in with a critique, like I'm the expert, right? Like I've spent like 80 hours with this design piece. They've only spent 6 minutes looking at it at most. So I shouldn't expect them to have like some revelation. What I'm really looking for is them to point out maybe something weird. Like maybe I'm kind of already feeling weird about a particular part of it, and I'm just, wanting them to confirm or deny, but for me, criticism's always just been about, hearing people out and then just like sitting on it for a bit, and maybe after you sit on it for a bit, you don't feel like they were right, and that's fine. But I think you're going to be able to grow a lot faster if you welcome the criticism and you're not always fighting it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thanks.
Could you repeat the networking part of it?
Yeah, it's more about I have a hard time networking with people when it comes to like in public environments like this. It's nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it's tough and it's awkward a lot of times.
My legs
it
are shaking. I've been shifting.
It doesn't always work out well, I think, but I think it's just more about just trying to put forth the effort, and you're not always going to vibe with everybody. Sometimes you'll talk with somebody and it just won't work out well. But
sometimes you just got to listen and absorb the information, and whether it, is accurate and effective to help you out, then cool. If not, then no biggie. Maybe that's just the way to look at it.
Yeah, I think out of all the people that I've talked to, I don't think anyone gives criticism in a malicious way. At least that's how I feel. Like I feel like people give criticism with good intention, and they actually want to help me make something better. So I think just believing that helps with that a lot.
Believing in the best of people. All right, thanks, man.
Yeah.
All right, let's try to get in a couple more questions. I got one over here.
Hi. I understand this might not be any of your wheelhouses, but I'm in the creative writing program and I'm looking to maybe get into esports journalism, and I'm not quite sure where to, stick my toes, and I'm not sure where exactly I should go first to break into the industry, really.
So I can touch up on that. We actually have an esports writer on eUnited. We have something called The Update, which is the EU kind of combining the and update. I know it's pretty cool. Anyway, we're just trying to be different. So he does an article a week and basically just kind of recaps what all of our teams are doing. And we've kind of simplified our approach on writing in esports because we're gamers and not everybody likes to read, but it's still a very important part of the industry. And especially on, I don't know why, but we get such good engagements on Facebook with our articles and sometimes on Twitter. I don't even know what I'm talking about this. I'm just going all over the place. But we're seeing more and more efficiency for good writers. And I've received a few emails over the past month of people just really showcasing their work. They take an entire tournament, maybe that we played 2 months ago, and they'll recap it and show different writing styles of either a news style or it going on a website or maybe an app, or even going in short quotes on images that we put out on social media. All of that stuff helps, and I think you'll really start to see more organizations taking advantage of writers soon. So it's definitely something that we're missing out on, and only a few organizations are really, taking that advantage right now.
Yeah, it is definitely a growing thing. Just a quick point. I did just recently have, I can't say recently, but like a couple months ago, have a conversation with, I think her name is Jess.
Jess Brohard, is that?
Yeah. So she's one of the, she was also wanted to get into gaming journalism, which that led her to basically hosting
Call of Duty
segments and like all that stuff. And on top of that, there's also, think of like YouTube Inside Gaming Daily or something like that. You could do game reviews. You could do, the esports industry is growing, and they are going to need writers. So like, it's not like you're looking in the wrong place.
Yeah, one thing that just came to mind too is some sponsor activations that we've done, like Astro Gaming. They're our headset sponsor at eUnited, and we have this thing called, oh my God, I'm gonna get fired. It's it's the Astro Gaming. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get killed. What is it? It's the listening. I'm trying to.
Listening.
No, that's our tournaments. I can't think of it. My staff members are probably laughing if they're watching the broadcast at home. But we essentially write words for our players to say, and someone's wearing a headset and trying to figure out what they're saying. But regardless, there's more sponsor activations that are happening across the community that do require storyboards, written parts, other things like that. And that, once again, is an untapped part of our industry that's continuing to grow. It's basically the social media manager, or my job, to come up with that. And as we grow into new roles, I feel like there's going to be, appropriate people writing that out for our partners and stories and stuff like that.
Awesome. Over here.
Hi, my name is Philip Lupardis, and I have a question for Matt. I know like in 2022, this projected outcome of viewership is supposed to be like 80 million more than any other sport on the market besides NFL, because it's so huge and everything else like that. But do you think anywhere in the future eventually they're going to have a national league, or does intellectual property stop that from ever happening? Because like the NBA in the past, they were fractured into different leagues and everything else, and then eventually they came in together underneath one big league.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had a terrible time recapping the question in my head. Can you please repeat it? I'm so sorry.
I was saying basically, do you think there will be a national league for where all these teams and everything else are like underneath one banner and they compete against each other, or they have different categories or everything else like the NBA or the NFL, or is it always going to be separated because of intellectual property rights of each company, EA?
Yeah. I'm not sure. Like, everything has really been kind of like loosey-goosey in a way, like just really freelance, and we're finally seeing developers kind of hone their game and maybe put restrictions on it. Like we saw with Fortnite, they wouldn't allow anybody to run a tournament over $15,000, I think, and it's a smart business play. They control the tournaments, they control the messaging, and we have that similar with Activision Blizzard at Call of Duty. You can't really run tournaments that are bigger than that. In terms of the league, franchising is the future. It will take over. We've already seen it in League of Legends. We've seen it in Overwatch League, and we're finally able to monetize media rights and kind of share that revenue with the organizations that are stepping up to the plate and investing millions of dollars into those leagues. So over time, I feel like COD's up next, and more games will come to play where they'll just be home and away games, and that franchise system will stay intact for the rest of these esports realms.
Or like a city will have a team, or?
Yeah, I do. I think we're seeing it now with
Overwatch does that.
Yeah, Overwatch has it right now, and we're having a lot of people are trying to figure out what city's the next big move. I think Dallas and LA are the two big spots for gaming right now, and they're completely dominated by Optic, Envy, and then out in LA, I believe Liquid's located out there, and you have Immortals too, and a lot of other organizations that I can't even think of right now. But I think the Midwest is really interesting. I come from St. Louis. There's nothing to do out there but play video games. So I'm hoping that something happens there, maybe somewhere else in the Midwest. And
I'm from Houston. All we have is oil.
Yep, there you go. So there's a lot of cities that need it, and hopefully over time, maybe even though it's not Overwatch or League of Legends, it could be a different game that you could root for in your home city.
Orlando Full Sail Armada.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, guys. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Give these guys a hand.